Injustices have occurred across communal, national, international, and transnational contexts throughout history, and in many instances, these injustices have not been acknowledged, neither have they been addressed. From the Holocaust, the Herero genocide, to the transatlantic slave trade, and today's claims of loss and damage due to climate inaction, there are many atrocities that continue to haunt the world. So, to address these, justice has been pursued over the years through the call for reparations. Reparations are meant to offer affected victims acknowledgement, recognition, justice, accountability, and compensation. But how do we actually finance reparations, and what might actually work in practice? These are the questions the advocacy team and Development Reimagined have answered in the report titled Making Finance for Reparations and Loss and Damage a Reality. What are the options? Through diligent, structured research and insightful interviews and analysis, the report aims to provide insight on some of the key questions around reparations. What financing options can be applied to reparations? Or how can these mechanisms work in practice? What sustainable sources of capital can finance reparations? And lastly, which financial mechanisms are truly appropriate for the recipient? The report identifies 14 potential financial mechanisms that could be used for reparations or for loss and damage. It also evaluates each based on 15 criteria, providing a holistic view of the pros and cons and the mechanisms from the perspectives of both the recipients and the payees. Each criterion is scored on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. We won't explain all the 14 criteria here. You'll have to read the report to understand that. But just to give a snapshot, one example is effectiveness, which speaks to the adequacy in restoring justice. Another example is value, which is meant to measure whether compensation is commensurate compensation to the recipient. Using these criteria, we assessed both mechanisms that have been used in the past, existing mechanisms, and totally new ideas that haven't been implemented before, at least not across the world anyway. We concluded by sharing some recommendations for the best options, and throughout the report, we used diverse case studies such as the British government's compensation to slave owners and Kenya's Mau Mau's case study, Japanese colonization, the Holocaust, and the Gulf War, as well as some climate change funds to date. So, how did they all score? First, the existing mechanisms include debt cancellation and relief, multilateral agreements, and public budget commitments. How did they rank? Overall, these scored relatively low against the criteria. While they support reparations, they score lowly from a recipient's perspective. And how about the new ideas? In the report, we looked at several options from long-term government repayments, special drawing rights reallocation, repurposed financial sanctions, offshore tax havens, fossil fuel tax, air tax, maritime tax, domestic hypothecated tax, and financial transaction tax. Our assessment showed that ultimately new ideas offer the greatest opportunities. From fossil fuel taxes to financial transaction taxes, these mechanisms scored the highest and therefore hold the key to addressing issues of power, issues of equity and justice that recipients have long yearned for. That said, when it comes to reality, our view is that the path to reparations lies in a combination of mechanisms, mixing existing and new ideas. For instance, debt cancellation, an existing mechanism, can be the first step. Repurposed financial sanctions can then be introduced, which can facilitate the transfer of assets and can even be used to create a reparations fund. Finally, financial transaction taxes targeting global financial markets can be agreed in the medium to long term. Reparations can be approached in these practical ways, but these recommendations demand attention and follow-through. This report is useful for all stakeholders, not only supporting or assessing claims for financial reparations, but also preparing in a practical way to deliver on those claims. This report provides a roadmap to the best financial mechanisms for reparations and for loss and damage due to climate change that will directly and positively impact the lives of the recipients, individuals, communities, organizations, and countries. In this way, we hope we can contribute to moving the discussion on reparations and loss and damage into not just what or why, but how and when.